I'm an idiot. Not the cute rom-com kind. The kind who should come with a warning label and a supervision bracelet. Last Tuesday, I decided to surprise my husband at work. 5 years of marriage had made me soft in the best ways. Comfortable routines, inside jokes, the quiet intimacy of knowing exactly how he takes his coffee. Andrew is the CEO of a media company called Horizon Digital, the kind of place with glass walls, chrome elevators, and people who walk like they're late to their own ambition. I thought I'd do something simple, romantic, harmless. A fancy box of his favorite pastries from that painfully expensive French bakery downtown, hazelnut eclairs that cost more than my first car payment. I imagined it like a scene from our early dating years. I'd show up, he'd look up from his laptop, his face would soften, and for 30 seconds, the whole world would shrink back into just us. I walked into the lobby feeling stupidly proud of myself, and immediately ran into a security guard who looked like he bench-pressed furniture for cardio. "Authorized personnel only," he said, stepping into my path like a human wall. I offered my best smile. "No worries. I'm the CEO's wife. I'm just dropping something off." He didn't even blink. "Ma'am, I see the CEO's wife every day," he said slowly, like he was explaining colors to a toddler. "And that's definitely not you." The air left my lungs so fast my chest stung. "I'm sorry, what?" "I see her every morning. Super nice. Always carries his briefcase." He checked his watch. "She should be coming through right about now." And then the universe decided I hadn't been humiliated enough. The glass doors whooshed open, and out walked Andrew, my husband, my life, my certainty. He looked flawless in that navy suit I'd helped him pick out. And he was laughing, genuinely laughing, at something said by the woman beside him. She was tall, polished, stunning in a way that felt expensive. Hair slicked back like she had a contract with whatever makes people look untouchable. And she was carrying Andrew's laptop bag like it belonged in her hand. Their shoulders almost touched. And my security guard, standing right next to me, said warmly, confidently, "See, that's her. That's the CEO's wife, Mrs. Thompson." My fingers tightened around the pastry box until the cardboard creased. Andrew didn't glance my way. He walked right past me, like I was a stranger in his world. Before that moment in the lobby, before the security guard's words turned my stomach into ice, I would have sworn my marriage was steady, not perfect, not movie perfect, but real. My name is Emily Miller. I'm 32. I work in IT support, mostly from home, the kind of job where your biggest daily battle is convincing someone to restart their laptop before they throw it out the window. It's not glamorous, but it's honest. It pays our half of the life we built together. Rent, groceries, the little comforts that make a week feel survivable. My husband, Andrew Miller, is the opposite of my world on paper. He's the CEO of Horizon Digital, a media company that lives behind glass walls and key cards. He wears tailored suits like they're second skin. People listen when he speaks. When he walks into a room, conversations shift to make space for him, like the air itself recognizes authority. The funny part? He wasn't always that man. We met 7 years ago at a friend's rooftop birthday party, one of those loud summer nights where the city heat clings to your shoulders and everyone pretends they're not sweating through their clothes. I'd gone in a simple dress and sneakers because I knew I'd end up helping someone clean up spilled drinks. Andrew was there in a button-down with the sleeves rolled up, laughing too loudly at a joke that wasn't that funny. I remember thinking, he's trying too hard. And then I spilled red wine all over him. Not a gentle splash, a full, catastrophic spill, down his shirt, onto his pants, dripping like a crime scene. I panicked and started dabbing at him with napkins, babbling about club soda and how carbonation breaks down stains, like I was giving a TED Talk. He just blinked and then laughed. Not the polite laugh people give you when they want you to stop talking. A real laugh. The kind that says, "You're ridiculous, and I like it." That was our beginning. Our second date was at a diner because I was too embarrassed to go anywhere nice. He ordered pancakes at 9 p.m., like it was the most normal thing in the world. He asked questions, real ones, not what do you do questions, but what do you want questions. When he talked about building something bigger than himself, his eyes sharpened like he could already see the future. I fell for that, for his drive, his warmth, the way he could be commanding in public and still gentle in private. Still the man who warmed my hands between his palms when I got cold. We dated 2 years before we got married. Small wedding, nothing flashy. I didn't marry a CEO. I married Andrew. But careers don't stand still. When Horizon started taking off, the hours stretched. The meetings multiplied. Andrew began coming home with that still in a boardroom stare. Tie loosened, phone buzzing, mind half somewhere else. I adapted the way spouses do when they love someone. I learned to eat dinner alone without making it feel like a tragedy. I learned to fall asleep to the glow of his laptop. I learned to say, "It's okay," and mean it, most of the time. And there were signs, little ones, the kind you explain away because the alternative is terrifying. He talked about work constantly, but rarely about the people. Names stayed vague. The team, leadership, operations. I knew his assistant's name. I knew his head of marketing. But there was one name that surfaced more and more over the last year. Diana Thompson, his COO. The way he said Diana always came with a kind of respect, like she was the only person who could match his pace. Sometimes he'd mention a client dinner with Diana. Sometimes he'd say, "Diana thinks we should pivot." Sometimes he'd smile at a text and shrug it off like, "Just work." And I told myself that's what it was. Because I was his wife. Because we'd built 5 years of marriage on trust. Because I didn't want to be the kind of woman who turns love into surveillance. And still, there were moments when I felt like Horizon was a world with a locked door, and I was the person waiting outside, telling myself the click of the lock meant nothing. So when I stood in that lobby with pastries in my hands and a guard insisting another woman was the CEO's wife, it didn't just feel like jealousy. It felt like every quiet doubt I'd swallowed had finally found a voice, and it was smiling. I didn't run after Andrew in that lobby. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the pastries. I did something much worse. I stayed quiet. Because once a seed of doubt gets planted, it doesn't need drama to grow. It just needs silence. I stepped outside before my hands started shaking. The glass doors reflected my face back at me, smiling politely, like nothing inside had cracked. The eclairs felt heavier now, ridiculous, sweet, expensive, useless. Across the street was a cafe called Grounded, all exposed brick, chalkboard menus, and baristas who looked like they brewed existential crises for fun. I walked in like a woman in control of her life and ordered the darkest roast they had. "I want it to taste like regret," I told the guy behind the counter. He blinked. "So, our house blend? Perfect." I took my coffee to the window seat facing Horizon's entrance. "This is normal," I told myself. "I'm just having coffee. I am not surveilling my husband like a low-budget detective with Wi-Fi." The building doors opened and closed in steady rhythm. Executives, interns, couriers. I wasn't looking for everyone. Just one, black BMW. Just one woman who supposedly arrived every morning at 8:45 and carried my husband's briefcase. At exactly 5:47 p.m., the BMW rolled up. I know the time because I'd checked my phone every 30 seconds for 2 hours. The woman stepped out first. Up close, through the glass, she was even more striking. Tall, structured charcoal suit, the kind of confidence that looks like it's been rehearsed in boardrooms. She handed her keys to valet without looking down. Then Andrew stepped out of the passenger side. Passenger. My stomach flipped. She walked around the car, said something that made him laugh. That laugh, the one where his shoulders loosen, the one that used to belong to kitchen jokes and midnight conversations. She touched his arm. Casual. Familiar. Intimate in a way that could be innocent. Or not. They stood there for a second too long. Then she adjusted his tie, smoothed it with careful fingers like she'd done it before, like it was muscle memory. My heart didn't shatter. It constricted. I lifted my phone without even thinking and started recording through the window. I didn't know why. Evidence? Proof? Insurance for my own sanity? The barista appeared beside me quietly. You okay? Emotionally? No. Physically? Questionable. Legally? Undetermined. They look close, he said carefully, following my gaze. They're coworkers, I replied automatically. He didn't argue. He just left a muffin on the table, on the house. Across the street, they entered the River House, the most romantic restaurant in the city. Candlelight, river view, proposal territory. My coffee tasted like burnt fear. I watched through the front window as they were seated at a corner table. Wine was ordered. Red. Andrew only drinks red when he's celebrating something. Promotion. Major deal. Our anniversary. What was he celebrating now? They leaned toward each other across the table, talking easily, laughing. She fed him a bite of pasta. Actually fed him. My throat tightened so fast I couldn't swallow. He didn't hesitate. He leaned forward and took the bite. The barista returned and stared at the window. Oh, he said softly. That's not good. No, I whispered. It's not. I sat there filming my husband being comfortable, intimately comfortable, with another woman, while pretending this was still somehow rational. Maybe they're rehearsing a presentation. Maybe this is business strategy. Maybe pasta feeding is corporate culture now. The denial was almost impressive, but deep down, something heavier was forming. Not rage, not hysteria, fear. Because the most terrifying part wasn't that Andrew might be cheating. It was the realization that I didn't know the rules of his world anymore, and someone else clearly did. If I had gone home that night and confronted Andrew immediately, this story would have ended differently. But fear has a strange way of disguising itself as strategy. Instead of walking into the River House and demanding answers like a dramatic wife in a movie, I did something quieter, more calculated. I followed them. The black BMW pulled away from the restaurant around 8:36 p.m. I know because my phone battery was at 18%, and I had memorized every percentage drop like it was counting down to something irreversible. I rushed outside and opened my rideshare app with trembling fingers. A silver Toyota Camry pulled up in less than a minute. The driver, a middle-aged man named Daniel, looked at me through the rearview mirror. Where to? I pointed at the BMW. Follow that car. He blinked. You serious? Yes. He squinted at the couple getting into the BMW. This about a man? Yes. He sighed like a philosopher who had seen this tragedy too many times. It's always about a man. Just follow them, I whispered. We stayed 3 cars behind. My pulse was pounding so loudly I could hear it over the traffic. Andrew's silhouette was visible through the rear windshield. The woman's hand rested casually on the center console between them. Too close. Too natural. The BMW turned onto Riverside Drive, the upscale stretch lined with quiet condos and riverfront townhouses. Not toward our apartment, not toward his office. My stomach dropped. They go to home, Daniel muttered. The car slowed in front of a modern high-rise with a private entrance. Valet stepped forward immediately. They got out together, and then I saw it. Andrew reached for her hand, not in a business handshake, not in a careful on the curb gesture. He laced his fingers with hers. My breath left my body. The world tilted. He leaned down and kissed her, not on the cheek, not polite, not ambiguous. On the mouth, slow, familiar, practiced. I stopped breathing. The Camry felt too small, too tight. My skin went cold. Daniel looked at me in the mirror, expression softening. I am sorry. I didn't cry. That surprised me the most. I just stared. 5 years. 5 years of marriage. 5 years of shared rent, shared holidays, shared secrets whispered in the dark. And here he was, kissing another woman outside a building that clearly wasn't mine. They walked inside together like they belonged to the same life, like they'd done this 100 times. The door closed behind them, and something inside me closed too. Daniel cleared his throat gently. You want to go home? Home. The word felt foreign. Yes, I said, my voice flat. Take me home. The ride back was silent. My phone was still in my hand, camera open, recording nothing now but darkness. I stopped the video and watched the last 30 seconds on loop. The hand, the kiss, the way his body leaned toward hers with ease. There was no misinterpretation left. No maybe. No what if. When I walked into our apartment, everything looked the same. The throw blanket on the couch, the mug he left in the sink that morning, the framed photo from our 3rd anniversary. How dare the world stay intact? I sat at the kitchen table and placed the unopened pastry box in front of me. The eclairs had gone soft. I opened the lid. Hazelnut glaze, still perfect. I laughed once. It sounded unrecognizable. At 10:12 p.m., I heard keys in the door. Andrew walked in casually, like any other night. Hey, Em, he said warmly. You're still up? He leaned down and kissed my forehead. The same lips, the same mouth. My body went rigid, but he didn't notice. I had dinner with Diana, he added easily, dropping his keys on the counter. Long strategy session. Investors are being impossible. Dinner with Diana. Strategy session. I looked at him carefully. His tie was slightly loosened. The same tie she had adjusted. Must have been productive, I said calmly. It was, he replied, smiling. She really understands how I think. Makes everything smoother. Something sharp pierced my ribs. She understands how I think. I nodded slowly. Emily? He asked. You okay? And this was the moment. The moment where I could scream, or cry, or throw the pastry box at his head. Instead, I asked quietly, Are you happy, Andrew? He looked surprised. Of course I am. Why would you ask that? Just curious. He walked over, cupped my face gently. You worry too much. I have everything I want. I held his gaze. Everything he wants, including her. Good, I said softly. He went to shower. I sat at the table and replayed the footage again. Hand. Kiss. Door closing. He lied to my face without hesitation. Not clumsy. Not nervous. Fluent. And that was the moment I realized something chilling. This wasn't new. You don't move like that with someone unless you've practiced. Unless this is routine. Unless I wasn't uncovering an affair. But stepping into a life that had been running parallel to mine for months, maybe longer. And for the first time since the lobby, the fear shifted. It hardened. Because now this wasn't about suspicion. It was about proof. And I was done guessing. Andrew came out of the shower smelling like cedarwood and normalcy. That's the part that nearly broke me. Infidelity should smell like smoke, like something burned down, not like expensive body wash and clean towels. He padded into the living room in sweatpants, running a hand through his damp hair. You still up? He asked softly. I was sitting on the couch, laptop open but untouched. The pastry box sat on the kitchen counter, like evidence in a quiet trial. Yeah, I said. Couldn't sleep. He sat beside me, close enough that our thighs touched. That familiar warmth. That muscle memory of comfort. Big day tomorrow, he murmured. Board call at 9. I studied his face. The man I married. The one who used to fall asleep mid-sentence while explaining business ideas. The one who once drove 40 minutes at midnight to bring me soup when I had the flu. Was that man still here? Or had I been loving a version of him that expired without notice? Andrew, I said carefully, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. If something changed between us, would you tell me? He frowned slightly. What do you mean? If you weren't happy, if you felt different. He leaned back, confused but not defensive. Emily, where is this coming from? I looked at him, really looked at him. His eyes didn't flicker. No guilt, no panic, just mild concern. I just feel like I don't fit in your world anymore, I admitted quietly. Horizon, the dinners, the late nights. He exhaled and rubbed his face. We've been through this. It's a growth phase. It's temporary. Is it? I asked. Yes. His tone firmed slightly. You know how this works. That sentence landed wrong. You know how this works. As if I'd signed a contract agreeing to be emotionally flexible while he expanded into someone I didn't recognize. And Diana? I asked. His posture shifted. Subtle, but there. Not defensive, just alert. What about her? You two seem close. He let out a short laugh. She's my co. We practically run the company together. Of course we're close. It's professional. Professional. I swallowed. Do you ever think it's too close? He stared at me now, eyes narrowing slightly. Not in anger, but in disbelief. Emily, he said slowly, are you accusing me of something? There it was. The line. The one I'd been circling all night. My heart pounded, but I kept my voice level. I'm asking. He stood up and paced once, hands on his hips. Diana and I work well together. That's it. You know how hard it is to find someone who understands your vision, who can keep up? I flinched. Keep up, I repeated softly. That's not what I meant, he sighed. You know that. Do I? Because tonight I watched you kiss her like you've done it before. But I didn't say that. Instead, I asked the question that had been clawing at my throat since Riverside Drive. Have you ever crossed a line? He turned to me fully now. No, he said without hesitation. Too fast. Too clean. The silence that followed stretched tight between us. He walked back over and crouched in front of me, hands on my knees. Emily, I married you. I chose you. Every day I choose you. Don't let stress make you invent things. Invent things. The words stung because if I showed him the video, there would be nothing invented about it. But something stopped me. Not fear. Clarity. If I confronted him now, he would deny, or explain, or twist, and I wasn't ready to show my hand. So I did something that surprised both of us. I nodded. Okay. His shoulders relaxed instantly. Relief flickered across his face. He kissed my forehead again. Get some sleep. He went to bed. I stayed on the couch. My phone sat in my hand, the video thumbnail glowing faintly in the dark. I replayed it again. The hand, the kiss, the familiarity. There was no ambiguity. And yet, his denial had been effortless, which meant one of two things. Either he was a world-class liar, or this was deeper than I thought. I opened my notes app and typed 3 words. Don't confront yet. Then underneath it, gather facts. For the first time that night, I wasn't drowning. I was steady. If my marriage was collapsing, I wouldn't let it collapse in chaos. I would understand exactly what I was standing on. And if Andrew had built another life parallel to mine, I would see all of it, not just the parts he thought I'd never notice. In the bedroom, I could hear him breathing evenly, peacefully. And I realized something chilling. If I hadn't shown up at Horizon, if that security guard hadn't mistaken another woman for his wife, I would still be sleeping beside him tonight without question. Sometimes the worst pain doesn't come from betrayal. It comes from realizing how close you were to never knowing. I locked my phone. Tomorrow, I wouldn't bring pastries. I would bring clarity. And this time, I wouldn't be the woman standing outside the glass. I didn't sleep. At 4:52 a.m., I gave up pretending. Andrew lay beside me, breathing evenly, one arm draped over the pillow where I should have been curled into him. I watched the ceiling until the gray of early morning crept across it, and somewhere between 5:10 and 5:30, something inside me shifted. If he was living a double life, I would not remain the clueless wife in cartoon pajamas. I would know everything. By 7 a.m., Andrew was dressed in a charcoal suit, adjusting his watch in the hallway mirror. You're up early, he said lightly. Couldn't sleep. He leaned down and kissed my cheek. Same softness, same warmth. Don't spiral, Em. We're good. We're good. He left. I waited 5 minutes. Then I grabbed my bag and followed. Not dramatically, not recklessly. Calculated. I ordered a rideshare and gave the driver Horizon's address. The city morning traffic hummed around us like nothing in the world had cracked open. When I reached Horizon, I didn't try to storm the lobby. I walked in calmly. Different security guard today. Young, distracted. Career fair? He asked, glancing at my ID. Yes. He waved me through. The 5th floor was decorated with banners and booths. Corporate blue and white balloons floated above tables labeled marketing, operations, executive strategy. I grabbed a paper cup of coffee to blend in. Objective. Listen. At the executive operations booth stood a woman in her late 20s with glasses and a polite smile. Her name tag read Lauren. Interested in leadership roles? She asked. Possibly, I replied. I'm curious about company culture. What's it like working with Andrew and Diana? Her smile brightened immediately. Oh, they're incredible together. Honestly, they're inseparable. It's kind of inspiring. Inseparable. My stomach tightened. In what way? Well, they're always the first ones in and the last ones out. Morning meetings, client dinners, strategy sessions on weekends. They even joke that they're married to the company. Married. Doesn't that blur boundaries? I asked carefully. Lauren laughed lightly. It works for them. They finish each other's sentences. Andrew always says Diana's the only one who really understands his brain. The only one who understands his brain. The words echoed. I swallowed. That's close. She nodded. Yeah, but that's why Horizon's thriving. Power duo. Power duo, not power couple, but close enough. Do they ever bring spouses to events? I asked. Lauren hesitated just slightly. Not often. Diana's single, so she's always available. Andrew's pretty private about his home life. Private. My heart thudded harder. Private how? She shifted uncomfortably. He doesn't talk about it much. I nodded slowly. Before I could ask more, I heard a voice behind me. Emily? Ice slid down my spine. I turned. Andrew stood 10 feet away. Suit immaculate. Expression unreadable. For a split second, neither of us moved. Lauren blinked between us. Wait, do you two know each other? Andrew stepped forward slowly. She's my wife. The air changed. Lauren's face drained of color. Oh. I held his gaze evenly. Hi. What are you doing here? His voice was controlled. Too controlled. Exploring opportunities, I replied calmly. Learning about company culture. His jaw tightened. Can we talk? Of course. He led me down the hallway toward a glass-walled conference room. Every step echoed louder than it should have. The door shut behind us. What is this? He demanded quietly. What is what? You interrogating my staff? I asked questions. About Diana. Yes. His hands went to his hips. You don't trust me. I met his eyes. I saw you kiss her. Silence. Absolute. For the first time since last night, his mask cracked. Just a flicker. What are you talking about? He said. Outside the Riverside condos. 8:47 p.m. His eyes searched mine. You followed me? You lied to me. He exhaled sharply. That wasn't what you think. Then explain it. It was a goodbye kiss. My stomach dropped. Goodbye? She's leaving Horizon. The words hit like a slap. What? She accepted an offer in New York. We closed a major deal last night and we celebrated. She's been with me since the beginning. It was emotional. So you kiss your co on the mouth when she resigns? It wasn't like that. It looked exactly like that. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration rising. You don't understand how intense the last 5 years have been. We built this company together. That kiss wasn't romantic. It was complicated. Complicated. I stared at him. Did you sleep with her? I asked. He froze. No. Too fast again. Andrew. No, he repeated, but his eyes shifted for half a second. Half a second. And that was enough. My voice lowered. Did you ever cross a line? Silence. Then. Yes. The word barely audible. It didn't explode. It sank. Once, he added quickly. Months ago. It meant nothing. Nothing. 5 years of marriage reduced to once. I felt oddly calm. Does she know about me? I asked. He hesitated. Of course. Does she know you told people here you're private about your wife? That's not what... Does she know you don't wear your ring to client dinners? His hand instinctively went to his finger. No ring. I let the silence fill the room. You said you choose me every day, I said quietly. I do. Not every day. He stepped closer. Emily, listen to me. It was a mistake. It's over. She's leaving. I was going to tell you. When? I asked. He didn't answer, because there is never a good time to confess something that fractures a marriage. I felt something inside me stabilize. Not anger. Clarity. You let me doubt myself, I said softly. You let me think I was paranoid. I was protecting us. No, I replied. You were protecting yourself. The hallway outside buzzed with cheerful career fair energy. Balloons, coffee, optimism. Inside the conference room, something fundamental had shifted. I wasn't the woman waiting outside the glass anymore. I was the woman standing in it. And now? He asked quietly. I looked at him. Really looked. The man I loved. The man who chose ambition, closeness, validation, ego, and one kiss that meant nothing. I need space, I said. His face paled. Emily, I need honesty, I corrected. Then I opened the door and walked out. This time, no one mistook anyone for anyone else. And for the first time in 24 hours, I wasn't confused. I was awake. I don't remember the elevator ride down. I remember the sound of my own breathing. Slow, controlled, mechanical. The lobby looked exactly the same as it had the first day I walked in, with pastries and optimism. Glass, chrome, polished ambition. Except this time, I wasn't the surprised wife. I was the woman who had just heard her husband say, yes, once. Once. The word echoed louder than any scream could have. Outside, the city moved like nothing had changed. Cars passed, phones rang, people rushed by with iced coffees and deadlines. My world had tilted, and no one noticed. I didn't cry until I was halfway home. Not dramatic sobbing, not cinematic collapse, just quiet tears that kept falling no matter how tightly I pressed my lips together. I kept replaying the moment in the conference room. Did you ever cross a line? Yes, it meant nothing. Nothing. How do you measure the weight of nothing when it fractures 5 years? When I unlocked the apartment door, the silence felt violent. His mug was still in the sink. The couch blanket still folded the way I left it. The life we built still physically intact. And yet it felt like a stage set, beautiful, hollow, temporary. I sat on the kitchen floor, not because I fell, because I didn't trust my legs. My mind began doing what minds do when they're in shock, rewriting history, every late night, every unexplained dinner. Every time he said, Diana understands my brain. Did that understanding include hotel rooms? Emotional confessions? Touches that blurred the line between professional and personal? Was it really once? Or was once the version he thought I could survive? The hardest part wasn't the physical betrayal. It was the emotional intimacy. The idea that someone else got the version of Andrew that thrived under pressure, that laughed freely, that leaned in. And I got the exhausted fragments at 10 p.m. I stood slowly and walked into the bedroom. Our bed. Our framed wedding photo on the dresser. In it, he was looking at me like I was the only person in the world. Was that real? Or just a phase? I sat on the edge of the bed and finally let the sob break loose. Raw. Animal. Involuntary. Not because I lost him, but because I lost certainty. The certainty that I was chosen, without hesitation. The certainty that I was enough. I thought about Diana, about how poised she looked, how naturally she fit into his professional world, how confidently she carried his briefcase. I thought about myself. Cartoon pajamas, IT tickets, working from the couch while he ran boardrooms. And a poisonous thought crept in. Maybe she fits better. I hated myself for thinking it. But heartbreak isn't noble. It's ugly and insecure and loud. I lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. The question that haunted me wasn't, how could he? It was, why wasn't I enough? And then another question followed close behind. If she's leaving, Would he have ended it? Or would this have continued in quiet shadows forever? My phone buzzed. Andrew. I stared at the screen. I didn't answer. Then a text came. I'm sorry. 3 words. Not enough. Another buzz. It was a mistake. Mistakes are forgetting anniversaries. Mistakes are burning dinner. Mistakes are not emotional affairs wrapped in ambition. Then, I love you. I closed my eyes. Love. What does that even mean when loyalty fractures? I rolled onto my side and hugged his pillow. It still smelled like his cologne. My chest hurt. Physically hurt, like something was pressing inward. I didn't want to be the woman who leaves over once, but I didn't want to be the woman who stays and shrinks either. The hardest truth began settling in slowly. This wasn't just about Diana. It was about the version of myself I had slowly abandoned. The version who felt confident walking into Horizon with pastries. The version who believed she belonged in his world. Somewhere along the way, I'd started orbiting his life instead of standing beside him. And Diana, she had stood beside him. That realization hurt almost as much as the betrayal. By nightfall, the apartment felt like a museum of a marriage still technically alive. Andrew texted again. Can we talk tonight? I stared at the message, and for the first time since this started, I wasn't thinking about him. I was thinking about me, about what I deserved, about whether love survives truth or dies in it. I wiped my face, stood up, and walked into the living room. The pastries from 2 days ago were still on the counter, stale now. Sweetness, gone. I threw them in the trash. Not angrily. Not dramatically, just done. And in that quiet, heavy moment, I reached the lowest point, not because my marriage might end, but because I finally understood something terrifying. I could stay and still lose myself. Andrew came home at 8:14 p.m. I know because I was sitting at the kitchen table, hands folded, staring at nothing in particular. The apartment lights were on, but the place felt dimmer than usual, like even electricity didn't want to be fully involved in this conversation. The door unlocked. He stepped inside slowly. No briefcase tonight. No confident CEO posture. Just Andrew. He looked at me like a man approaching a verdict. Can we talk? He asked softly. I nodded. He didn't sit immediately. He hovered, uncertain, which was new. Andrew never hesitated in rooms. He commanded them. Tonight, he looked like he was waiting for permission to breathe. I told you the truth, he said quietly. It happened once. It shouldn't have. It was during the investor retreat in March. We were exhausted. We'd just closed a brutal quarter. Emotions were high. We crossed a line. And then? I asked. And then I ended it the next day. Because you felt guilty? Because I realized I was about to lose you, he replied. I studied him. You didn't lose me then, I said. You lost me when you lied. He winced. That's fair. Silence stretched between us. I could feel the weight of 5 years pressing against this moment, asking whether it was stronger than one fracture. I need to know something, I said carefully. If she hadn't taken the New York offer, would you have told me? He didn't answer immediately, and that pause told me everything. Eventually he whispered, I don't know. There it was. Not cruelty, not passion, cowardice. He had chosen avoidance over honesty, ambition over transparency, comfort over confrontation. And suddenly, something inside me steadied. Because clarity, even painful clarity, is stabilizing. You didn't fall in love with her, I said slowly. You fell in love with being understood in that world. His eyes widened slightly. That's not... It is, I interrupted gently. She validated you professionally. She moved at your pace. She lived in the same arena. It made you feel powerful. He didn't deny it. And somewhere along the way, I continued, I started shrinking in comparison. Not because you told me to, but because I let myself. He stepped closer. Emily, you were never less. I felt less, I replied calmly, and you didn't notice. That landed because it was true. For months, I had been orbiting his career instead of anchoring myself in my own worth. The affair wasn't born from love. It was born from imbalance. And that realization was the turning point. Not rage, not revenge, understanding. I need something from you, I said. Anything. Radical honesty. No minimizing, no wants, no protecting your image. If we try to fix this, it will be ugly. It will require therapy. It will require transparency. And you will not blame stress or success or proximity ever again. I won't, he said immediately. And if you hesitate, I added quietly, I walk. His jaw tightened, not in anger, but in realization. You would leave. Yes. The word surprised even me, but once it left my mouth, it felt right. Because for the first time since Horizon's lobby, I wasn't reacting. I was choosing. He nodded slowly. I'll do whatever it takes. Then we start tomorrow, I said. Counseling, full disclosure, and you tell your board about Diana leaving without rewriting history. His eyes flickered. That could affect perception. Good, I replied, because reputation built on omission is just another lie. He swallowed. Okay. For the first time that night, I saw something shift in him. Not defensiveness, not charm, accountability. And strangely, that mattered. He sat across from me, not beside me, respecting distance. I never wanted to lose you, he said quietly. You almost did. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't suffocating. It was transitional. Later that night, I stood alone on our balcony, overlooking the city lights. The same skyline that had once made me feel small now looked different. Steady. Indifferent. Bigger than both of us. I realized something important in that moment. Whether my marriage survived or not, I would, because I had stopped waiting to be chosen. I had chosen myself, and that changed everything. Inside, Andrew was scheduling a therapy appointment. For once, I wasn't chasing clarity. It was sitting in the room with me, and tomorrow, we would see if love could stand in it. The first therapy session was 3 days later. 3 days of sleeping on opposite edges of the bed. 3 days of measured conversations. 3 days of Andrew leaving his phone face up on every surface, like a silent offering. Transparency. It's uncomfortable, raw, clinical, and necessary. Dr. Kaplan's office smelled faintly of eucalyptus and professionalism. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. Infidelity doesn't begin in bedrooms, she said calmly during our first session. It begins in silence. Andrew didn't argue. I didn't either. Because the silence between us had been widening long before Diana. We talked about ambition, ego, validation, the intoxication of being admired professionally. Andrew admitted something that shifted the air in the room. When Horizon scaled, Diana was the only person who saw the pressure up close, he said. She understood the stress without me having to explain it. I felt less alone. And Emily? Dr. Kaplan asked. Andrew looked at me. I didn't want to burden her. There it was again. Protection disguised as exclusion. You don't protect a partner by keeping them outside, Dr. Kaplan said gently. You create distance. And distance creates room for someone else to step in. The second fallout came at Horizon. Diana officially announced her departure. The board had been told she was relocating for a new strategic opportunity. Clean, polished. But Andrew made a different choice. At the executive leadership meeting, he corrected the narrative. There was a lapse in professional boundaries between Diana and myself earlier this year, he said plainly. It was brief, it was wrong, and it will not define Horizon moving forward. The room reportedly went silent. Not because CEOs don't make mistakes, but because CEOs rarely admit them. It cost him. Whispers. Investor discomfort. A slight dip in stock confidence. Nothing catastrophic, but enough. Reputation took a dent, and Andrew let it. Because for once, image wasn't the priority. Truth was. At home, things weren't magically fixed. Healing isn't cinematic. It's repetitive. We had conversations that circled the same pain from different angles. I asked the same question in different forms. Was I enough? And every time, Andrew answered, yes. But trust doesn't regrow because someone says yes. It regrows because their actions stop contradicting it. Weeks passed. Diana relocated to New York. No dramatic final confrontation. No messy showdown. And strangely, I didn't hate her because the affair hadn't been about romance. It had been about access. She had access to the version of Andrew under pressure, and I had let myself believe that made her superior. That belief was the real poison. One evening, about a month later, Andrew came home holding a small envelope. "What's this?" I asked. He placed it in front of me. Inside was a document, not divorce papers. A board restructuring proposal. He had stepped down as CEO, moved into a strategic advisory role. Why? I asked, stunned. I built Horizon, he said quietly, but I don't want to lose my marriage building something else. The words stunned me more than the confession had. You don't have to give up your career. I'm not, he said. I'm changing how I live inside it. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't punishment. It was recalibration. Ambition doesn't have to destroy intimacy, but it does require boundaries. And Andrew had finally drawn them. The fallout wasn't explosive. It was corrective. His schedule changed. His travel decreased. His phone stopped buzzing past midnight. At therapy, we stopped talking only about Diana. We started talking about us, about how I'd slowly diminished myself in his shadow, about how I'd equated his world with worth. And something unexpected happened. I stopped trying to fit into Horizon and started expanding in my own lane. I took on a major systems contract at work, led a team instead of staying quietly behind tickets, not to compete with him, but because I deserved expansion too. One night, months after the lobby incident, we sat on the couch watching the city lights flicker. Andrew reached for my hand. This time, there was no doubt. I almost lost you, he said softly. Yes, I replied. And you stayed. I stayed because you told the truth. The cost of his mistake wasn't humiliation. It was humility. And that changed him, changed us. The woman in the charcoal suit didn't win because this was never about winning. It was about whether two people could survive seeing each other clearly, without illusion, without ego, without protection. And slowly, we were learning how. It's been 6 months since the day I walked into Horizon with a box of pastries and walked out with the truth. The elevator still sticks sometimes in our building. The city still hums outside our windows. Andrew still drinks red wine when he's celebrating something. But we are different now. Quieter. More deliberate. Trust didn't snap back into place like elastic. It rebuilt itself like brickwork, layer by layer, choice by choice. Therapy every Tuesday. Hard conversations even when we'd rather watch a movie and pretend everything is easy again. Some nights, I still remember the way he held her hand outside that building. And it stings, because what defines us now is what happened after. He told the truth publicly when it would have been easier to protect his image. He stepped back from power when it threatened to cost him partnership. And I stopped measuring myself against boardrooms and tailored suits. I stopped assuming I needed to fit into his world to deserve space in it. I belong because I am here. Because love isn't earned by competing. It's sustained by showing up fully. One evening last week, we walked past Horizon together after dinner. Glass walls, lights glowing, new leadership team inside. Andrew squeezed my hand. Strange seeing it from the outside, he said. He smiled at that. And that's the lesson I never expected to learn. The thing that nearly destroyed my marriage wasn't another woman. It was distance. Unspoken insecurity. Ego dressed as protection. If I had never shown up with those pastries, I might still be living in comfortable ignorance. Instead, I faced something painful and discovered something stronger underneath. Love doesn't survive because it's perfect. It survives because two people decide truth is more important than pride. And if you ever find yourself standing in a glass lobby, Hearing something that shatters your certainty. Don't look away. Clarity hurts, but it also saves you from loving a version of reality that doesn't exist. As for me, I'm no longer the woman waiting outside someone else's world. I'm standing firmly in my own. And this time, I'm not shrinking for anyone.